You are listening to the E2C Network, where the Auburn family speaks.
War Eagle Auburn fans, welcome to No Huddle, your source for Auburn football news and discussion, part of the E2C Network. I'm AJ Richardson, and I'm also here with Jared Davis. We got some off-season topics to talk about. We just got a big recruit that will be coming in as a wide receiver. So we'll definitely be talking about that. We actually got another wide receiver a few weeks ago and a defensive lineman. So we're starting to, build up more and more transfers that are coming to Auburn and a lot of times in these much needed positions. And we're also eyeing, especially this last week, we had some official and unofficial visits at Auburn, and some of those are pretty key positions like offensive linemen. So we will get into some of that. But before we do that, Jarrett, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Just trying to navigate the heat, the heat that we have going on here. I'm ready for fall, man. I know everybody's
Already?
like, yeah, everybody's a summer, and I get the activities and kids and going to the beach, and that's all fun. But from a temperature standpoint and just a mindset, fall, man. I'm ready for fall. Football starts, so yeah, I'm other than I got some time though, so I'm gonna have to keep up with our baseball team's doing really well. Maybe that'll
Yeah.
keep me occupied until football starts. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I think here in Georgia, it's starting to get up to the 90s,
Yeah.
which is a little toasty. So I understand that piece, but I'm my favorite part of the whole year is summer, just because it typically revolves around vacations and getting out and just all the fun things that come along with summer. I'm a beach bum, so summer is kind of my go-to.
I hear you, man. Most people would agree with you. I'm the weird one, but we already knew that. So
hey, somebody's got to be the weird one.
that's right. I'll say,
And I'm
I'll
usually
carry that torch.
Yeah. All righty. Well, let's talk about the transfer. So at this point, I think Auburn, based on my calculations, I think it's 9 transfers since the end of the 2021 season. So we've now got 9 extra transfers. And a couple of those, like I mentioned, are key positions. Like we now have Dazzlin Warsham. He's a Miami transfer. He is a wide receiver. And boy, Jared, do we need some wide receivers. We just got news the day before we're recording this, so it would be June 4th, that we got Coy Moore, who will be transferring. He played at LSU, and he's a 4-star wide receiver. That's 6 foot, 190. Looks like he can play ball in the SEC, and kind of added benefit, he still has 3 years of eligibility. So I'm looking forward to getting more wide receivers on campus and working in with our quarterbacks, because, oh my goodness, like that and offensive line have obviously been kind of the big 2 needs that we need at Auburn. But Jared, any thoughts on our wide receivers that we've recently gotten?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's a position of need, and the guys that we haven't proven a lot where they're at, but they were talented. I don't remember if Dazzlin was a 3 or 4-star. I do think he was from Alabama, but even if he's a 3-star, the reality is these guys 3, 4, 5-star, most likely they have talent. It's just getting with the right coach, getting the right training system going, and getting the right scheme going. So you got to have the players to do that, and we now are getting some players there that maybe we can develop. And we got a defensive lineman, I think you mentioned, from Memphis. That was huge because we didn't expect to lose. That was the area of strength when the season ended, and then we lost a few we didn't really probably plan on. Now we added the transfer from Oregon and this transfer from Memphis, and we got a JUCO guy. So, I think we're going to be okay. But yeah, all in all, I will say about the offensive line, to be honest with you, we have a lot this year. We have a lot of returning starters, and there wasn't any surefire O lineman out there. So I'm not as hurt on not bringing in an O lineman. If, like, let's say there was an automatic, oh, this guy's amazing, you got to try to find a way to get him. But other than that, it was going to be hard for them to get playing time because we're returning so many starters.
Well, yeah.
And I think that's why we probably didn't get any of them.
Well, and you're probably pitching them that you're not getting really any play time unless some injury happens. And even then, like you might not get it because there's guys that have been here longer than you. So I could see a 17, 18-year-old just not being sure about that and not really committing to doing that. But hey, one of the guys that we are targeting right now is Ian, I think Gefford. I'm gonna guess that's his last name, how you say it. But he's a 3-star. He is a big dude. He wouldn't come until the 2023 class, but that's when we, like you mentioned, a lot of our current guys have been at Auburn for a while, and this is their last year for a lot of the offensive linemen. So we really need to start racking up on offensive linemen to fill that huge gap, or else we're going to have some big issues, some real big issues, because as many Auburn fans over the last couple of years have known, if you don't have a good offensive line, you don't have a run game, and quarterbacks scramble like crazy. And we've made it patchwork before, but that's not a good way to live, especially in the SEC.
Yeah, I think a lot. So I don't do as much social media right now on football stuff, but there was people, early at the end of the season we're panicking. We're not getting any offensive linemen, no offensive linemen. Where we're at right now with the senior people we have, I would much rather have a great high school recruiting class this year in offensive linemen because that's going to be for your future. Like you said, these guys coming in for one extra year, we're not going to want to come here because we can't guarantee them they're going to start.
Yeah.
And so let's go ahead and get young, talented guys that we can start molding. And we got some on the team. People forget we have, I think it was Colby Smith or something. He was last year's class. He was a 4-star by a lot of people, and we got him out of North Carolina. And, he's got another year under him. He didn't play last year. He redshirted. So that guy may develop into a stud. You never know. We got people on the roster. We just got to get them playing consistently.
Yeah. And I think that will happen. I mean, if we know anything about our pretty much how the offensive line over the last few years, even though we will have a starting 5, there is some little bit of rotation, especially, somebody tweaks their ankle or whatever, like something happens. We're going to have extra guys that have to play. And that's just the nature of how offensive line it kind of goes. I will note this, and I found this stat and I thought it was very interesting, was, we're not necessarily landing a lot of offensive linemen right now, but we are out there going after them. We have, based on, what I was looking at, we've offered 23, not just only offensive linemen, but offensive tackles, 23 offensive tackles.
Wow.
For the 2023 class.
That's awesome.
So like we're out there, we're trying, and it's just a matter of finding the right fit and them liking Auburn. And sooner or later, some of those are going to start landing. At this point in the kind of the recruiting cycle, we're still really early. I mean, most teams only have single digit number of verbal commits, and Auburn's kind of that we may be slightly behind, but to me, kind of a verbal commit doesn't mean a whole lot. I mean, yeah, they're committed to Auburn. There's kind of this mutual respect, but at any moment, I mean, like everybody knows, up until they sign that piece of paper that says, I'm coming to your school, I mean, they have the choice to, pull out for literally any kind of reason. It's just, word of mouth, verbal commitment. That's pretty much it. And, there's something to be said for you. Obviously a verbal commit. I think it does say something, but we got to keep working at it. And I think there is some good positive momentum and, just about the whole recruiting thing right now. I mean, there's a lot of people saying, hey, Auburn's getting there. It's not like, the last couple of years where we pretty much just didn't have a shot. At least we're in the conversation for a lot of these guys. And I think that's moving in the right direction to, get back to what we need, which is a top 10 recruiting class to stay up with, the Alabamas and the Georgias of the world. It's just it's the nature of the beast being in the SEC. You have to be up there, and we can't necessarily just be like a, top 20 class and survive. that's just not going to be how it works in the SEC. You have to get in that top tier recruiting to stay up with the best of the best.
Auburn offers anything any other school really in the country can offer from a football perspective. So it's really about winning. We got to get out there and get back to winning. I mean, atmosphere, fan support, history, and really academics. I mean, obviously there's some better schools out there, but I mean we're top 40, every year public schools. So I mean you can pretty much come and get a great education. So there's a lot of things we offer. We really don't take a backseat to many people except self-inflicted stuff we do. So let's all get on the same page. Let's start winning some ball games, and I think it'll take care of itself.
Yeah, I think you're right on with that. Just with sometimes Auburn beats itself up, and we're our own worst enemy. And sometimes I think to myself, man, why did we just do that? Like, what did we just do to self-inflict ourselves with this injury? This when we could have just walked on and kept moving forward.
Well, we panicked. So our two closest friends, are getting all the awards at school.
Right.
And so we're panicking because we're not getting any. And so we do silly things. And at the end of the day, one thing I will say I think about Harsin is, like him or hate him, whatever. It all comes down to wins or losses. But I don't think Harsin gets phased, right? So I don't think the noise really bothers him. I think he has a plan. Now, whether his plan works, I don't know. But he's not going to be wishy-washy. He's going to be like, this is what we're going to do. And if he can get the good players that he needs, and I do feel like he's now relating better just from what you see on social media, I think at the end of the day, if his plan works, we just got to make sure we get the players there to instill it, because I don't think he's going to be changing like, oh no, everybody's getting upset, let's change things. I think he's like, look, this is what I've done forever. If we work it, it'll take care of itself.
Right. Well, and there's some element of a good coach that he knows, for example, I mean, Harsin's been a coach for 20 years or almost 20 years, something like that. He's been around the block. He's been on lots of coaching staffs. He's seen the winning formula and he knows what that is. And it's just, obviously getting the right guys and getting them to buy in. And that's the piece that I think most Auburn fans, even dating back to, the issues back in February and the accusations, I think it kind of spawned from not having a great recruiting class. And a lot of times that came back to, how Harsin was relating to people. And I think you're starting to see a lot of change. I mean, for goodness sakes, he started his own podcast. And that's something that I don't think any, main football college head coaches are doing right now. Now they may have kind of the Auburn University or whatever university they're at, be on that podcast every once in a while, but it's kind of this like interaction between a media person and the football head coach, which a lot of times, let's be honest, coaches are going to do what they do best, do coach speak. And I feel like there's a certain element that, Harsin's trying to break down that a little bit so that he's relatable and you can kind of see a little bit more of who he is and be a little bit more transparent. And I think that's kind of the piece that I'm really liking about Harsin. And I hope that kind of comes through, but ultimately it comes down to, even if a person is 100% transparent about everything and everything, a reporter asks him, what kind of pen do you use? Who gives, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But like if Harsin was, transparent about that, but he won like 3 games in a year, sorry, you're gone. Like It's a matter of like, do you win or not?
Yeah.
And not how transparent you are.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have said, well, okay, so he's going to the baseball games, he traveled to basketball, he's doing all this. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. And I'm like, I think it might. It could, because even the players that left, and we've said this on the show, even the players that left said, look, he is a very smart X's and O's coach. He just doesn't relate well to me. And if he has figured out the relatability piece, listen, those players are going to play more for him.
Yeah.
So you're going to get more out of your players if he has figured out that relatable piece. And that's on him to figure that out. Because when I said a few moments ago, Harsin say, hey, I've been doing this, you do it my way, it's going to work. I don't mean ramming, it down people's throats. I just mean he knows the structure it takes to get there. You have to relate to every kid differently, though. they have to be able to feel like they can come to you, and you got to be tough with them a lot of times. But that doesn't mean you got to still be relatable. And if he's figured that out, I'm pretty excited because I think that will lead to victories. I think that does matter what he's doing now, being more out in the public and shaking hands and saying, "Hey, look, I now get it."
Yeah. No, there's a piece that if that continues and he does this is a part of his, his new thing that he does as essentially the CEO of this football team, is being out there a little bit more with the people. I think you're going to get more people on his side. And I think that also was part of the reason why people were like, yeah, after this, accusations back in February, he's gone, just because he didn't have enough friends to, back him essentially. And I think if you start building that friendships and, camaraderie between the Auburn fan base and yourself, it's a little bit, it helps you. I mean, it helps like the football culture itself, but it helps kind of your career, because you're there with, you could potentially be at Auburn for a lot longer. And, obviously he's got to prove a lot on the field, but there's a piece that I would love him to continue to grow. And it seems like it seems like every couple of weeks, hey, Harsin went to go throw out a, first pitch at the baseball game, or, he started this podcast, or, he's doing whatever with the team. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I think people will really latch onto, because then it shows he's got a good personality. He's there for the players. He wants the better. He wants things to be better than what they were in the past.
Hey, Auburn fans, I want to take a quick timeout from this episode to bring your attention to something very special. Here at the E2C Network, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best content for Auburn fans out there. And best of all, it's free to you. But just because it's free doesn't mean there aren't costs, especially when you have a library of hundreds of podcasts, videos, blogs, and more. Many of you have reached out and asked how you can support this network in the past. Well, now I have your answer. It's called the E2C Network Booster Club over at patreon.com/E2C Network. There you'll find a membership monthly reward system where you can sign up for as little as $1 and get different perks at different tiers. Some of those perks include things such as apparel, eligibility to join us on future podcasts, recognition as an E2C Network booster, exclusive communications, and bonus content that is available nowhere else. If you love this network and want to help us keep producing podcasts like this one, please head on over to patreon.com/E2C Network to join the E2C Network Booster Club. You can also get there by going to our website, e2cnetwork.com/support. Whether you decide to join or not, we are still so appreciative that you would support us by just listening and being here, because each and every one of you is part of our E2C Network family. Well, that's it. Timeout's over. Let's get back into the episode.
And I want to give two people potential credit, and then I know we'll move on. This isn't about Harsin, but I think at the end of the day, if we were to hear all the stories, I think we probably to give a lot of credit to Zach Etheridge and probably Cadillac, two guys that are Auburn men, been there, everybody respects. They probably were able to get in Harsin's ear and say, "Hey, man, this is, you got to start doing some of this stuff." And he obviously respected their opinion. And also, it's not as bad as we were hearing, because Zach Etheridge was apparently the lead candidate to go to Georgia. He stayed at Auburn.
Yep.
Cadillac was being rumored to get into the NFL and the coaching, like pretty heavy rumors. He stayed at Auburn too. And I know that's their alma mater, but still, at this point, they're thinking coaching career, right? So, they see potential there because they had options. And so I think they now have a good working relationship, and give them credit for speaking up, because I really think that's probably what happened.
They know the program. They've been there, they played, and now they've been coaches at Auburn. And I think there's a piece of, I don't know, like a help that, or an extra bit of like, what am I trying to look at or talk about? It's the extra, I've been there, done that. I've seen what works and what doesn't. And they've seen the best coaches, and they've seen the, some not so great coaches, and they have push through it, and they're saying, "Hey, Harsin, I believe in you. You hired me on. Let's keep this thing going." Versus, leave to a different place, even the NFL, which could be very enticing. And they decided to stay, which I think again says a lot about this coaching staff. And we've said it before. I think this coaching staff is essentially what Harsin has wanted from the very beginning. And I think now we have that. It wasn't, hey, you should probably go hire this, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, lineman coach or whatever. I think every pick is 100% Harsin's pick. And I think that for a person like Harsin, where the culture and the unity of his coaching staff is very important to him, I think that means a lot, because if you have a unified vision, the players will understand that and they will go along with what you're saying even more. And to your credit, to what you were saying, I think players, when they see the unified effort and they know where they're headed, they play that much harder. And I think this could be a year where you see a lot more unity on the team, not here, playing harder, being on the same page, all of that.
I agree.
All right. So another piece of that I did want to talk about was a lot of these players, have come back over Memorial Day weekend, and they've started to do all the summer camps, which I think are optional. I'm pretty sure they're optional. They typically are. So we've now got a lot of these players back on campus, working hard, and putting in the time and effort, which is very much needed to get you ready for the grind that is the football season in the SEC. So those guys are getting back, and we've even got a handful of, obviously, the new guys, the guys that just graduated high school and coming in, and really looking forward to seeing kind of how those new guys come and start to fit in to this team. All right. So, Jared, one other kind of topic, and this is something you and I kind of off the side have started, and I wanted to talk about our little friendly wager. So, Jared, do you want to explain what this friendly wager is and kind of how you came up with this one?
There's nothing friendly about. I'm kidding. Yeah. What do we have on the line here? Is it a Starbucks coffee? And you said I could not get a venti. It's got to be a grande.
Sorry. Only grande. No, whatever.
Okay. Whatever it's called. We don't even know. Yeah. I mean, you and I have differing opinions. I was going to say disagree. That just sounds negative. We have differing opinions on who's going to be the starting quarterback. And I probably was a little too bold and said that this decision is going to come before fall camp, and it's going to be somebody that's never played at Auburn before.
It's possible.
So do you want to tell who we think's going to be starting quarterbacks?
Yeah. I mean, I've kind of been on even back to at the end of the season. I know TJ Finley, he was essentially kind of thrown into the position of starting quarterback, but he's a backup. You got to expect that he's as prepared as he can be, but he didn't get all the top, talent, practicing. He was practicing with the second team a lot of times last year. So I think this year, and it definitely to me kind of showed me that, TJ Finley is ready to move up. And that's where kind of my approach is. I think TJ Finley is ready to go, but it's really up to the coaches. But I do think TJ is ready for the limelight. I mean, he was the starting quarterback dating back to the LSU days as a freshman. Sophomore year, he comes in and plays at Auburn, a handful of games that he started, and almost beat Bama. And I think that says something, that he can play in the SEC. So that's kind of my approach with where we're at right now.
Yeah, and we're kind of weird because I actually hope your guy wins out because I like him. When I listen to him talk, he's just a good guy. Rooting for him, hope it pans out. And at the end of the day, I want to be clear. I couldn't care less. Like I want what's best for Auburn. So I'm not rooting for the guy that I'm thinking is going to win the job. But I think Zach Calzada, I think he's going to be named starter before fall camp. And really the reason being is kind of what you were just saying, except a little more success last year. He went through the SEC, gauntlet. And I know he played out of his mind that game, but it showed what he could do. But he beat Alabama. He beat Alabama.
Yeah.
I mean, he came in and was making the throws that won the game, even after being injured. So, and TJ, to his credit, he was injured in the Bama game and kept playing. So, I'm not saying Zach's tougher than TJ. I think they're both tough kids. I just think watching film, I think Zach has the ability to throw a better deep ball. And I think in this era of football, I've said it every podcast, people are tired of hearing it. You got to be able to throw the deep ball and complete it. And I think that TJ's out routes over the middle throws are second to none. He hums it in there. It is a laser. I don't think I don't know if he understands the touch on the deep ball enough, and we can't miss on those. And that to me is going to be the difference of, I think, Zach being the starter.
It could be. I mean, with how much the deep ball has been a part of what we need to kind of jumpstart an offense. I mean, how many times have we just thrown the short route and then stalled out the 30 and then have to kick a 50-yard field goal? I mean, that is just brutal. Like, that's hard on an offense because you're like, we were moving, and then we just stopped. And sometimes that's due to we just can't do the long routes, the 40-yard pass, it's the 30-yard pass. And, that's a key. And I mean, I have faith that TJ Finley can figure it out, but Zach Calzada has kind of the history of showing when he played at Texas A&M, he could throw that. And now that he's all healed up and, full contact, ready to go, he could win it out. And I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I don't personally care who wins. I just want who's best for Auburn. And if it's Zach Calzada or TJ Finley, or maybe even, I've seen a couple of people say Robbie Ashford might even have a shot. I don't care. I just want the best quarterback for us that puts our wide receivers in good spots and our wide receivers catch for them. And that's really it.
I give Robbie a 5% chance. I think there is a chance Robbie starts. Obviously I got Zach at, very, very high percentage.
Mm-hmm.
I think TJ, in my mind, you disagree. That's okay. I think TJ is the number 2 option right now, and Robbie's going to have to really prove himself, really just to be more consistent. Robbie's the most athletic. Can he be consistent? And then you got Holden, who's probably the most overall best quarterback we have from an overall standpoint, but he's just too young. He hasn't seen. I was talking to somebody the other day. He played running back actually at a 1AA at the time. The school's now, it was Appalachian State. So I was talking to him, and he said, and he wasn't in a bragging way, but he said, I was a pretty good player, and I went to App State, and it is like this change of speed is amazing. And so think about, nothing against App State, but think about the change of speed coming to the SEC, right?
Oh yeah.
And you're the quarterback where you got to know what everybody's doing.
Mm-hmm. And even if you're half second off, that could turn into a turnover, an interception, fumble, something.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know how. There's been very few quarterbacks to do it. I can't even. I don't. Johnny Manziel may have done it, but he was more of a backyard. Let's just make plays happen on the fly.
Yeah.
Holden's not that guy. Holden needs to be reading defenses properly to make the right pass, and that's just takes time.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's a chance that again, back to our kind of friendly wager, I don't know if we'll hear before fall camp, but I would hope that we would find out pretty quick into fall camp who that quarterback is. And I'm still kind of like in the TJ Finley. I've seen him. I like him. I know not a lot of Auburn fans do, just because he did lose us some games, but he also didn't, put us in the most terrible situation. I mean, he's a backup quarterback, and there's only so much you can do.
Here's a feather in your cap for your camp of wanting TJ. I don't think he lost us any games. He just didn't take them over and win them. So to me, that's a lot easier to fix.
I would say Georgia State. He
did.
Didn't lose it.
He did win that one.
He won that one.
You're right.
Us.
As a starter. Sorry. You're right. Yeah, he won the Georgia State game. Forgive me on that. I apologize. The end of the season when he had to come in, I don't think he lost us any. He just didn't take over and win and make the play that could have won.
Yeah.
But then again, he went to 4 overtimes with Alabama, making the throws that need to be made on a basically broke ankle. So
Yep.
I don't know, man. I don't even know if we really clarified though. The wager is obviously, if Zach is not named starter by fall camp, I have to let Mr. AJ get a Starbucks on me.
And counter the reverse. If Zach wins, then I'll buy you the Starbucks. So.
But you told me it can't be venti, so
That's sorry.
Still a little mad about that.
Well, I got to put a line somewhere. I don't want to spend $9 on coffee for you. So.
You're like, it's not worth that. I don't want to take out a loan to buy you coffee.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, that's funny.
All right, Jared. Any other thoughts before we get out of here and get back to it?
No, just like I said, just excited to see him, get back to practice and fall camp to roll around. Let's see what we got and get the season here. So just excited for all of it, my friend.
Yeah, there's a good bit of excitement. We talked about the recruiting aspect. We're getting some good transfers, and now it's just a matter of seeing how they fit in. And I think we're gonna, over the next few months leading up into the season, I mean, we're really getting close. We're only like 2 months away before we really start hearing a good bit about what's going on. This last we got summer months, which can be pretty slow as far as news coming out, but this is when the grind happens. This is when the players put in the work in the the weight room, or they add the weight, they cut the weight, whatever their goal is. That this is the time to do it.
This is when you win. Oh, some positive news real quick. I think the first 3 games have been announced to be night games.
Yeah.
Yep.
So good point.
That's really good. And when it's still really hot,
Mm-hmm.
night games will make it more fun for fans for sure.
Yeah. And I think, the Penn State game was the 2:30 CBS, which
Yeah.
I was a little bummed about.
Kind of bummed about that, but
I mean, Penn State got an evening game at Penn State, so why can't we? But that's all right. I still think a 2:30 games, I mean, it's a prime time situation. I mean, it's a good spot for us to be.
If we're looking good our first 3 games, then we're going to that with a little momentum. Yeah, the crowd will be into it. It'll be fun. But yeah, I would have. I mean, I always want a night game, but at home at least.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so first three games of the season are at night. If people were not aware.
Yeah, always excited about that. Even if it's a small game, I feel like a night game, there's just something fun about it.
Makes it a little. It adds a little more to it, even when it's not the same type of opponent. I agree with you.
All right, Jared. How can the people stay in touch with you?
You can just find me on Facebook under my name, Jared Davis.
And you can find me on Twitter at AJAY, JAY _. It's always great to be an Auburn Tiger and War Eagle.
War Eagle.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on the E2C Network. On your way out, I want to remind you to stop by e2cnetwork.com. It's your one-stop shop for all our content across our podcast, YouTube channel, and much more. To stay up to date with us, make sure you're following social media accounts such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. While our content here may always be Auburn sports heavy, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. War Eagle.